out through choke if
Yeah,
they
we
come
need to
choke.
do this fast.
Because they have a pyro here.
Noah's big door.
We have
They're
a.
close. Let's use it.
Dylan,
Let's use it. Let's go.
I'm something big door.
9 down pyro.
Coming down point.
Yo, get in, get in, get in.
I'm in, big drop, big drop, big drop.
Shot that too.
Hold the
Back,
demo,
back,
demo,
back.
demo.
I got 60
Demo
on their minigun.
Sixes is really cool. Throughout the many years I've spent playing this game, it's slowly become my favorite aspect of the game, and is honestly the main thing keeping me playing other than the sunk cost fallacy. Sixes is notoriously difficult to get into, with somebody needing to spend hours on prep work and research before they can even set foot in their first game. Both its fans and detractors will say that Sixes is so different that it might as well be its own game. Personally, I disagree with this. The reason that Comp TF2 is so fun and has survived for so long is because it is competitive Team Fortress 2. All of the weird decisions the comp player base made were because of the fundamental qualities and design of TF2 as a game, and these decisions make sense if you look at them from the right perspective. This video exists to give you that perspective, so if you've ever had questions like, why do we only play on certain maps? Why do we restrict so many weapons? Why are all the players so kissable? Then this video is for you. So first things first, why is Sixes Sixes? TF2 is normally played 12v12, why is its main competitive format 6v6? Unfortunately, I don't really have a better answer than because of the way it is. Competitive TF2 started very soon after the game was released. During this time, people experimented with team sizes like 12v12, but also 8v8, 4v4, and even 2v2. 6v6 eventually became the standard for many reasons. The first being practicality. The more people you have involved in an activity, the harder it is to actually do that activity. Take this from somebody who is a long-time RPG owner, but not player. The next reason is that 6v6 just feels right from a gameplay perspective. A team size of 6 is small enough where you can feel the full impact of an individual player's actions, while also being large enough that team play and coordination are core parts of the metagame. A team being up or down one player is a concrete, actionable advantage, while also not necessarily being the be-all end-all. So we have the team size figured out, now you and 5 other people have the goal to win a match in TF2. But in what way? What's the win condition? In other words, what game mode are we playing? Well, what about Payload? It's the most popular casual game mode, so naturally it should be the one showcased in comp. Unfortunately, Payload has problems when translated to a 6v6 environment. The first issue is that Payload maps are too big for teams of 6. TF2 is a game all about taking space. Take the first point of an attack-defend map, for example. The match starts with red team controlling the entire map. By using their faster spawn times, blue is able to overwhelm red with aggression until they get enough space to stand on the control point. Taking and holding a large amount of space is really hard when you have less bodies to do it. The attacking team feels like they can't attack to their fullest, and the defending team feels like they can't defend to their fullest. There's also the problem that the big and open nature of most of the popular Payload maps creates some very problematic sightlines, and this issue is compounded by the former issue since it's harder to take space and pressure the enemy sniper. There are also problems with the objective of Payload, the payload. Mainly just how much time you need to spend interacting with it. Most objectives in the game are one and done deals, but the payload cart needs a team to constantly push it. Take this game of Upward for example. After capping the first point, the blue team begins to extend over the hill to take advantage of their momentum while somebody pushes the cart through the cave. This is the main gameplay loop of Payload, where the main force of the team pushes forward in order to make space for the cart to be pushed without resistance. The problem is that being the person stuck pushing the cart is really boring, not to mention how the attacking team has to effectively play a man down, which also doesn't feel good. Due to all of this, Payload is not the main game mode of Sixes. That honor will instead go to control points, more specifically, 5 control points. 5CP has been the main comp staple for years now, and that can be attributed to 3 main reasons. The first is that 5CP as a game mode is very dynamic. For those unfamiliar, 5CP works like this. Both teams start the match with 2 points in their team's control, with there being a neutral point at the center of the map up for grabs. Whoever gains control of this point will be able to capture the team's second point. Capturing this point will unlock the team's last point, capture that, and your team wins the round. Because of these rules, teams will need to find themselves needing to switch between playing offensively or defensively, sometimes multiple times around. Take this Sixes game for example. My team rolls out to fight the other team at the middle point. During this fight, we drop multiple players and are forced to roll back and defend our second. Their team fails to capitalize on their momentum, which allows our dead teammates to respawn and roll out to second in order to play it. The momentum of the game is now even, and so our team rushes forward to force an Uber exchange into them. The enemy team is not ready for this, which causes them to drop 2 players, which gives us the advantage we need to win the team fight for free. After that one team fight, we were able to walk back onto the mid control point and take it for free. During that team fight, we also killed the enemy med, while I lived, meaning that we are now set to get Uber while they are still building. Because of this, their soldier rocket jumps at me in order to try to kill or force me at the cost of his own life. Unfortunately for him, he isn't able to get anything, which gives us a numbers advantage that we use to walk into their second. Taking full advantage of our momentum, we rush into their last with Uber before they have time to set up a proper defense and win the round. That round, from start to finish, was 2.5 minutes long. There is no other game mode that facilitates this kind of aggression, which is why players have gravitated to it for so long. Part of what makes 5CP so dynamic is the fact that it's symmetrical. You don't have one team who's putting all of their chips on offense against a team who's putting all of their chips on defense. Both teams need to balance offense and defense at the same time, and the team that is better equipped to do so is the one that wins the round. The second main point in favor of 5CP is that its maps facilitate deathmatch skills. Comp TF2 was first started by the old school FPS tryhards of the time, those being Team Fortress Classic players, Counter-Strike 1.6 players, and Quakers. These games are all about raw individual skill and mastery over aim and movement. The modern 6's player base play for a very similar reason. TF2 as a game has an incredibly high skill ceiling, and people want to see how far it can be pushed. People practice for hours on end just to see how far they can go. 5CP maps are typically open, with lots of verticality, which encourages this kind of play, while not being so open that sightlines are a problem. If you think about it, every 5CP map is 5 combat arenas separated by chokes and flanks. The last point in favor of 5CP is that it's very TF2. Other games have their own versions of King of the Hill, Payload, or Capture the Flag, but there really isn't another game that has anything close to 5CP. 5CP was also added at the game's launch, which causes people to feel like it represents TF2's core design. Because of these reasons, 5CP has always been the main game mode of 6's. There are other game modes that are played. Gravel Pit was played in the old days, and Koth has been played since it was added and remains to be a popular side game mode. Okay, so we're playing a 6v6 match of 5CP where we are trying our hardest to win. TF2 is a class-based shooter, so now we need to determine what lineup of classes would best lead us to victory. In other words, it's time to assemble the meta. If we want to put together the best team, then we should probably start with the best class. Every good team needs a good medic. With heals, buffs, and Uber, he is the single most powerful class in the entire game, and it is common knowledge that the team with the better medic will almost always win. However, Medic is a support class. He can't push through chokes or get kills on his own. He needs a large source of damage that can take advantage of his supportive potential. While a good medic should be healing and buffing all players on their team, it's still good to have a dedicated power class who essentially acts as a team's bicep. In casual, the class that usually fills this role is Heavy. He has an insanely high damage output and a max overheal of 450, which is a lot, especially for a team of 6. Unfortunately, Heavy is a pretty bad pick. For starters, 6's is all about mobility and keeping up with the game state, which Heavy is the least equipped to do. There's also the problem that in team fights, Heavy crumbles to coordinated focus fire, which you will see in a competitive setting. Well, how about Soldier? He's very mobile and designed to handle any combat scenario. The problem is that having to play around a medic can prevent a soldier from taking full advantage of their class's mobility. The other issue is that Soldier's 4-rocket clip doesn't quite provide the sustainability that Medic is looking for. Well, if 4 high damage explosives aren't enough, how about 12? Demoman is the single strongest damage dealer in the entire game, and this is largely due to his sticky bomb launcher, the strongest weapon in the entire game. Combined with pipes, there isn't much in the game that can stand in the way of a stock demo with 260 HP. Because of their power, Medic and Demo are both limited to 1 of each. This means we have 4 more slots on our team to fill. Let's take a step back and look at our objective. Just like how a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step, a journey of 5 control points starts with just one, the midpoint. In competitive games, the first moves are often the most important, and TF2 is no different. It's not uncommon for rounds to be won extremely quickly due to a team capturing the first point and maintaining that momentum. We need to cap this point, and to do that we need the fastest class we can get. We need aggression, we need offense, we need shock and awe. Soldier is this game's offensive generalist. He was designed to handle any combat scenario while potentially being the most mobile class in the right hands. No matter how you want to play the mid-fight, Soldier is your guy. If you want to play slow, he can pressure with spam rockets. If you want to play fast, he can bomb. A large part of what makes Soldier so good is his ability to take advantage of high ground. Standing on high ground gives him better spam and bomb angles while making him harder to hit. Having control over the high ground acts as a way to pseudo-capture the point. Even though the point isn't your color on the board yet, your team controls all the space in the area, effectively making the point yours. Soldier is all around a great class, however he's not as powerful as Demo or Medic, so he gets a class limit of 2 instead of 1. We have 2 slots left on our team, and with all these explosive classes running around, finding someone who can counter them is a high priority. Well, what about Pyro? They can reflect projectiles, and with unlocks they can get to mid fairly quickly. The problem is, as I've said before, Soldier loves taking advantage of high ground, which Pyro is terrible at contesting. The openness of 5CP maps also makes it hard to do any meaningful damage with flamethrowers. We need a class with high mobility who can contest high ground, and there is no better choice than Scout. Scout eats good in 6s. The maps are open, meaning the classes that usually hold him back just aren't present in this environment. Against soldiers, he can jump onto the high ground and deny them access to it while he chips them down and dodges their rockets. If the soldiers try to bomb, he can deny them by shooting them in mid-air, where the knockback will throw them off course for an easy kill. It's also well known that a Scout is an excellent counter to Demo Man. Demo hates highly mobile classes that can rush him down and get right in his face, which is Scout's specialty. On top of being an amazing counter to explosive classes, Scout is debatably an even better teammate for them due to the innate properties of his weapons. In 6s, there's a saying, explosives deal damage, hit scan get kills. If you've ever played Shotgun Soldier, you should be familiar with this concept. The shotgun does much less damage than the rocket launcher, but the fact that it can apply its damage so easily makes it ideal for following up on the rocket launcher's damage. In 6s, it's the same concept, just applied to the team as a whole. Like Soldier, Scout isn't powerful enough to warrant a class limit of 1, so a team can run 2 of them. And with that is our 6-pack, the best lineup of classes for the majority of situations in 6s. A large part of what makes this lineup so versatile is the mobility of every class on the team. With their mobility, a team can aggress on advantages and retreat on disadvantages more easily, which causes a team to have much more control over the pace of a match. Due to their general utility and versatility, these 4 classes are often referred to by the community as Generalist, while the other 5 classes are called Specialist. This doesn't mean these classes are bad though, far from it. These classes have the ability to be much better than the Generalist, but only in certain situations. These Specialist classes can be divided into 2 groups based on which situations they excel in, Defenders and Assassins. The Defenders are Engineer, Heavy, and Pyro, and these classes are used to defend a team's last point. When defending last, it's best for a team to bunker down and commit to defending, since playing offensively is made much more difficult, both due to map design and the fact that you can't take any risks due to not having any more ground to lose. When aggressing out of last, there's also the risk of losing the round to a back cap, which is a genuine strategy that your team needs to watch out for. Because of this, a team can only really push out of last if the opportunity is practically given to them, and the only way to get this advantage is by stuffing a full team push. The Defenders are your team's means to fend off a push like this, and they usually take the place of your team's scouts, since its mobility doesn't help as much when you're dedicated to protecting one area. Engineer is the ideal defender due to the fact that a level 3 sentry is the best area denial thing in TF2. He is the first class you should switch to if you have the time, but if you don't, you thankfully have another option. Heavy is a great defender if you can't get a sentry up. 450 health is a lot to get through, and his minigun can shred enemies, especially bombing soldiers. Oftentimes an engineer will forego healing his gun to hang out in the spawn door to switch to heavy when his gun goes down. After all, if you don't have time to rebuild a sentry, why not become the sentry? Heavy also has a niche attacking enemy last. Heavy is designed to have amazing damage output while lacking the ability to aggress it into the enemy, making him reliant on having enemies come to him. However, this limitation also goes away if enemies have nowhere to retreat to outside his range. The idea is to have him come in after your team Ubers so you can take advantage of the space you created with a 450 health beast. Heavy is niche on offense though. Sometimes having a second scout or soldier is just better, on top of not having to actually deal with rolling Heavy out to the enemy last.
Guys, I think we should explore each other's bodies in this official.
Hey, for last push, I'm gonna go heavy. What do you think? Pushing to last.
If you go heavy, I'm actually gonna like. I was gonna say something like actually seriously fucked up that would get me banned. Like.
Pyro is the last defender, and the most niche. They're used to protect sentries from spam and spy check while also being good at denying Ubers. Like Heavy, Pyro also has an offensive niche, although it's a bit more map dependent, such as attacking last on Gully Wash or breaking forward holds on Product. The next type of specialists are the Assassins, and the main man of this archetype is Sniper. He is brought out whenever the state of the game slows down in order to get a pick on the enemy medic. This can be attacking last, defending last, or anything in between. Sniper is the king of this domain. However, if a team manages to speed the game back up, he can be in trouble because average move speed is actually pretty sluggish in a fast-paced environment like this. Spy also exists in this archetype as a wildcard version of Sniper. When things slow down, teams can often play with sightlines in mind if they suspect that an enemy will come up on Sniper. Spy can potentially get right in the thick of the enemy if they're playing passively at the cost of additional risk. When your Spy is invisible and working himself behind the enemy, your team is effectively a man down, all for a play that's not guaranteed to work. Newer players often think Spy is bad in competitive, claiming that
anything Spy can do, Sniper does better.
But this just isn't true. Good players still get backstabbed, especially in 6s where the absence of Spy makes him unexpected. A good team can also use the threat of Spy as part of their greater mind games. So we have our main lineup of classes, as well as viable places for the classes that don't fit the usual lineup. People have been playing with this lineup for years now, and these 4 classes have received a lot of development. We are now going to look at these strategies people use with these classes, as well as their roles in optimal play. By the way, this isn't going to be an in-depth guide on these classes, it's just going to be an overview for you to understand the core of what they do.
Ghost!
First up is Medic, who is fundamentally very similar to how he plays in Casual. The only difference between Casual and Competitive Medic is Ubercharge becoming even more important. 8 seconds of invulnerability is the strongest thing in TF2, so teams make sure to leverage it as much as possible. The best situation you can be in is where your team is aggressing with full Uber while the enemy team doesn't have yet. This situation is called Uber Advantage. Uber Advantage works like this. Let's say we have 2 medics at 0% charge and one of them dies. It takes a minimum of 40 seconds to build an Uber charge, and let's say this medic builds at max rate while the other medic is stuck respawning for 16 seconds. 16 is 40% of 40, meaning that the first medic has 40% more Uber than the other medic. In other words, 40% Uber advantage. For this reason, the determining factor to what makes someone the better medic is how good their survival is, since the fewer deaths you have, the more often your team will be at Uber advantage.
Let's do it!
In competitive, Demo's playstyle isn't different, but his importance is. This just might be because a good stock demo in Casual is a rare sight to see. Demoman has the best damage output out of all the 6's classes and the ability to deal that damage safely outside of everyone else's effective range. In competitive TF2, you never want to take a fair fight. On a macro level, this means taking team fights when you're up players, but this can also be applied on a micro level to kill individual players by putting them in a 2v1, leveraging your better positioning, or finishing off players who already took damage. Demo is a great catalyst that can create advantages that his team can use to extend into the enemy and get kills. A full health medic and a buff scout are normally terrible targets for a soldier to bomb, but if they both take even just 60 damage from a sticky, then that soldier's odds of a successful bomb are greatly increased. Demo also serves to be the defensive backbone of the team. Many casuals will say that Demoman's designation as a defense class is a misnomer, but in 6s he shows why he has that title. Demoman's high damage projectile spam is the main thing preventing enemy teams from just walking at you. For this reason, a demo pick is oftentimes treated as important as a med pick. There's also sticky traps, which have the ability to completely lock down doorways or change the course of an entire match in just 1 second.
Last one alive, lock the door!
When you think try-hard pub soldier, what's the first thing that comes to mind? It would probably be somebody with the gunboats, rocket jumping around the flank, causing chaos, and taking risks to make big plays. This playstyle actually has a home in comp in the form of the roamer. It's the roamer's job to manage the flank, preventing the enemy from getting through while also looking for an opportunity to get through himself and bomb the enemy team in a suicidal play. These sacrifice plays are called sacks by the competitive community, and they are a core part of the metagame. Oftentimes the tempo of the game will come to a standstill, and both teams will be just sitting around waiting for an advantage that they can use to push into the enemy. Sacks are a way that teams can create that advantage, with the most commonly being used to kill or force the enemy medic. The team who is up in control points is the one with the onus to sack in most cases, because if the timer were to run out, then the game would reset back to neutral, meaning that they would lose all of their progress. Sacking is inherently a risk. Being down 1 in a team of 6 is a clear advantage that an enemy team can take advantage of. In sacking situations, the team that's up a player will most likely respond with a counter-sack, which aims to achieve the same goal as the first team. The roamer isn't the only one who can sack. Sometimes you can send both soldiers, or a soldier and a scout, for a double sack. You can also use one soldier to jump into the enemy to draw eyes and bomb with the other soldier while the first soldier airstrays to safety. This is called fading. Roaming is just one way of playing soldier, and the other soldier will take up a different role, that being the pocket. Back in the Stone Ages, the pocket soldier in 6s played a lot more similarly to what a pocket soldier is in casual, with him running a shotgun and playing with the medic. As the game's skill ceiling was pushed, the pace of the game increased and pocket soldiers had to start playing more mobile. With the release of the Meet Your Match update, Medic was granted the ability to copy the move speed of faster targets with all mediguns, which was the final nail in the coffin for the old school pocket playstyle. Nowadays, the pocket soldier equips the gunboats and plays more similarly to the roamer with some key differences. For starters, the pocket soldier still plays somewhat closer to the combo, unlike the roamer who spends most of their time on the flank. This change in positioning leads us to pocket soldier's first job, which is bombing through chokes. Aggressing through chokes is normally very difficult due to how easy it is for the enemy to concentrate their damage in one area. The problem here is that the enemy team controls all the space that you're trying to push into. Bombing through the choke is a solution to this problem. You present yourself as an immediate danger that the enemy team has to deal with, splitting their attention and giving your combo the space they need to get through. Another thing that separates the pocket from the roamer is the rollout. In 6s, the normal rollout is this. While everyone is frozen, your med puts beam on the demo while they jump towards the spawn door. During this time, the pocket soldier also jumps towards the spawn door, making sure to take lots of self-damage. Everyone's movement should be unfrozen by the time the demo reaches full overheal, and so the medic will then attach beam to the roamer to get him to 300 HP. The demo and roamer will blast jump their way to mid while the medic attaches their beam to the scouts, buffing them and giving himself scout speed. During this time, the pocket soldier will do a few more jumps, but will make sure to run the rest of the way with the escape plan. This is so he can build crit heals, which would allow him to stop in the choke before mid so he can get buffed to 300 for the fight.
Play ball!
In modern times, the traditional pocket role is filled by Scout. The Pocket Scout plays as part of the combo, protecting the medic and following up on the demo's damage. The biggest threat to your medic is enemy soldiers bombing him, so the Pocket Scout plays in order to shoot them out of the sky before they can hurt him. Scout also provides another important benefit to Medic, that being his speed. Attaching beam to a Scout will allow Medic to run at that speed, which massively improves their ability to avoid damage and keep up with aggression. The Pocket Scout's positioning at the front of the team makes him the most common pick for a team's main caller. The main caller is the quarterback of the team, the person who calls when the team is going in and how. It's really important to have a plan that your whole team is in on, because you can't just have people doing whatever they want. Every player has their own 90-degree perspective on the match, and it's the main caller's job to piece them together with comms and context clues in order to find the best plan for the current game state. Let's get into the middle of a sixes match to look at the kinds of calls a main caller would make and why. The situation is this. We are playing a match on King of the Hill where we are about to lose this teamfight because of me allegedly dropping an Uber. The main caller says,
Okay, as soon as they cap, we stack, okay?
King of the Hill has a system where the team that does not own the point has faster respawns than the team that does, which creates a sort of attack-defend feel. Our team is trying to milk as much time as we can before the other team inevitably captures the point. After they cap, we're going to commit to a full team sack where we try to kill or force the enemy medic. Now, Ubers are even, and during that sack we manage to kill one of the team's scouts. All of the players on our team are going to spawn before that one scout, so the main caller on our team calls for us to go lower to fight a 5v6 fight before that scout respawns.
Yeah, we have to play okay, so we're gonna go lower. Once we blast through, you guys are gonna shove right and we're gonna edge point, okay?
He then calls for a right shove, which means for our flank to shove into right house, which gives us space that we can use to cap the point.
Wait,
Okay. Soldier.
Took 30. Soldier, other soldier.
Okay, shove the right now.
Coming.
I'm capping.
Here.
It's free. The other soldier behind.
Stacking. Hold on.
Okay.
I still have right house. We're just spamming them.
They're concrete.
Yeah, I'm holding left. I'm close left. Watch for
They're
it.
coming con now.
Everything works out essentially perfectly, and we gain control of the point with even Ubers. A scout playing in the spearhead position might seem a bit strange to a casual player, but the pocket scout earns their seat due to the environment and the skill level of competitive scouts. If you want a playstyle that's close to what scout does in pubs, then look no further than the flank scout. The flank scout's job is to watch the flank, similar to the roamer. Unlike the roamer, the flank scout isn't as focused on getting through and sacking. Instead, he's focused on making sure opponents don't get through, and to support the roamer if they try to push him. In direct combat, the flank scout shows his pub scout roots. The pocket scout has a lot of combat potential that they have to leave on the table because their number one priority is protecting the demo and the medic. The flank scout is free to extend forward and take more risks to secure kills. However, being away from the beam means being away from beam, and a good flank scout needs to make sure they're playing their life and only taking risks when needed. The flank scout also has an important yet unglamorous job, which is capping points. In casual, there is no class that can roll a game mode better than Scout can roll 5 CP, and the reason for this is how fast Scout can cap the points. His 2x cap rate combined with his movement speed means in casual he can cap a point and start capping the next point before the enemy team can set up a proper defense. In competitive, this is still true. If one team has a massive numbers advantage, then they can leave the scout to cap the point while they take space on the next point, essentially getting 2 points for 1. Scout is also fast enough by the time the next teamfight starts, he will be there to support his team in frag. With that is the long and short of how the Sixes meta is played. Now, it's finally time for you to choose the class or playstyle that you wish to use. Ah, I see you're a medic main. Well, that's actually good, because there's actually a shortage of medic— Oh, you're one of those. That's gonna be a problem. Sixes as a grassroots esport runs into some unique issues. One being that the unlockable weapons in the game just weren't designed for competitive play, whether they weren't balanced for low team sizes or just weren't balanced at all. The community's solution to this problem was to create an item whitelist and ban any item that proved itself to be problematic. Now, this would be the part where you would expect me to pull up the whitelist and go over every weapon and why it's banned, but I'm not going to do that. The reality is that the weapon bans in Sixes really aren't that important. In fact, there's a joke in the Sixes community that casuals care more about the whitelist than comp players do. A lot of people's introductions to grassroots competitive scenes would be something like competitive Smash. Out of the box, Smash is a chaotic party game full of randomness and uncompetitive mechanics. The bans and custom rules set by the community are what turned Smash Bros. From a party game to a highly skillful esport. Team Fortress 2 launched with no unlockable weapons, and the competitive meta formed and solidified before the vast majority of unlocks were added. TF2's meta was formed around the stock fundamental qualities of the classes, meaning the weapon bans don't serve to create the competitive experience, they serve to protect the existing competitive experience from being made worse. If you want to see me go over every competitive weapon ban in a future video, let me know. Instead, for this video, I'm going to go over the broad reasons that weapons are banned so you can get a better idea of the thought process for banning things. The first reason that a weapon would be banned is if it is considered over-centralizing. A weapon is considered over-centralizing when its existence causes a suffocating effect on the metagame as a whole. An example of a weapon banned for this reason would be the Mad Milk. Its upside is so oppressive that if it were to be allowed, many teamfights would be decided by which team is able to better utilize this one unlock, instead of being decided by which team has better aim, movement, and fundamentals. This leads us to the next reason that weapons get banned, and that is skill negation. Competitive TF2 is a competition. People play in order to see who's better, which requires a fair playing field where people are able to play to their strengths. Options like the Natasha that remove your opponent's ability to express their skills have no place in an environment like this. There are also just weapons that are overpowered and thus too good to allow in competition. The Wrangler is the go-to boogeyman for this kind of thing, and it's easy to see why. Its shield forces a team to put an unreasonable amount of effort into destroying a sentry for little to no investment on the engineer's part. There are several weapons like the Wrangler that are considered overpowered even in casual. However, the unique rule set of 6s can sometimes cause weapons that are balanced in casual to become problematic by circumstance. The most common issue is lower team sizes, which causes the sustainability of weapons like the Fist of Steel and Quick Fix to become too much. An example of a more specific attribute becoming an issue would be the Cowmangler. With Engineer only being present on last, the damage penalty against buildings doesn't matter, meaning that the Cowmangler becomes a straight upgrade over stock. Being a straight upgrade isn't actually that big of a deal in 6s. The issue with the Cowmangler is that its infinite ammo and charge shot don't add much in terms of interesting strategy, while simply being annoying. Weapons don't need to be game-breaking in order to be banned. Oftentimes, leagues will ban weapons if they prove to do more harm than good, even if that harm isn't much in the grand scheme of things. As of recording this, the Lock and Load was the most recent weapon to be banned, and it was banned for this reason. The Lock didn't provide any new or interesting strategies for a team to play around, it just let Demoman do what he does normally, but from further away, which makes a metagame with it being legal less fun with no tangible benefit. The last consideration for a weapon ban is which class a weapon is on. Most people are surprised to find out that the Scorch Shot is actually legal in 6s. Even though most people can agree that the Scorch Shot is a bit dumb, Pyro themselves aren't applicable enough to make the Scorch Shot a problem. The opposite of this is also true, meaning that the criteria of what makes a weapon problematic can be stricter if that weapon is on a dominant class. This is the reason that Scout has the most weapon bans out of all the classes. The environment of 6s benefits Scout so much that he is one small nudge away from being overpowered, and a lot of his unlocks give him that nudge. This is why something like the Pretty Boy's pocket pistol is banned. Effectively, it's just a better pistol, but Scout has so much going for him that he doesn't need a better pistol. Weapon bans in 6s aren't set in stone. Over time, we'll see weapons become banned or unbanned as the meta evolves, but any change to the rule set will be in accordance to the rules we just talked about. TF2 as a grassroots esport relies heavily on the third-party organizations who organize tournaments and seasons. The largest of these leagues are RGL for North America, ETF2L for Europe, OzFortress for Australia, and Asia Fortress. These leagues will oftentimes differ in things like weapon bans and map pools, however these differences are pretty minor, and the 6s played across regions is for the most part identical. The last change these leagues make to the game is setting a config in place. In Valve, Casual 5CP and Koth are both set to be first to 2. These are game modes that can end incredibly quickly, so leagues will up the round limit in order to improve the competitive experience by setting 5CP to become first to 5 and making Koth first to 4. There's also the issue that 5CP is one of the few game modes in TF2 that can theoretically last forever if nobody is able to cap. Valve's solution to this was a 10-minute round timer that's reset whenever a point is capped. If this timer ever ticks down to 0, then the current round will end in a stalemate and a new one will start from the beginning. Leagues reduce this time from 10 minutes to 4, which reduces the amount of time teams spend just sitting around and turns running the clock into an actual strategy. Take for example this clip where my team has been stuck defending our last for a few minutes. With the round about to reset, we decided to fully commit to playing defensively because resetting back to neutral would actually benefit us as the losing team. In order to prevent games from going on forever, most leagues have a 30-minute map timer that will reward the win to whatever team is up on rounds when it runs out. North America has a different take on the 30-minute timer. Instead of deciding the round at 30 minutes, it will reduce the rounds needed to win the match. For example, if the highest number of rounds a team has is 2, at the 30-minute mark the game will become first to 3 instead of first to 5. This limits how long matches go on while also making it so that the winning team has to close out the match to win. With that is everything you would need to understand the fundamentals of TF2 sixes. There is a lot of confusion and misinformation about sixes, and I hope that the existence of this video will combat some of that. With that being said, thank you for watching. I hope this video was educational or at least entertaining. Make sure to subscribe if you want to hear me yap about sixes or other things in the future. If this video has inspired you to try out sixes, then I would say just go for it. Just search up whatever league represents your region, create an account, and join their Discord. Whether you're getting some friends together to start a team or join an existing team, my biggest piece of advice is to just start. If you're somebody who's abstained from sixes because you think you aren't ready for it, I guarantee the biggest roadblock in your way is the one you placed in front of you.
Yeah.
I'm slow and unhealthy and fat and stupid and angry.
You'll
I'm fucking dead.